Hey y'all, yesterday I submitted a video about an object lesson that I've asked y'all to do for this weekend about sin. So we're talking about Adam and Eve this week and the fall of humanity and how when they sinned once that became easier and easier to sin. We're generally referring to those as mistakes because it's easier for our kids to grab onto it that way. And as a part of that, there's this object lesson that's listed as optional in the curriculum that is just so visually striking that I really encourage you to use it. In the previous video, instead of using iodine, I use food color. And food color has its own benefit because the change is very slow. So when you have one cup that represents sin, one that represents Jesus, one that represents us, when you put the iodine water, or in that case the food color water, it stains that water, and then when you put the water from Jesus, which is actually bleach, then it slowly turns it clear, right? Well, because it slowly turns it clear, it's a great chance to talk about how we need to give Jesus time to change us. There's a sanctification process. And there's a great analogy that goes with that. But some of you may want something that's visually striking, something that's right, just happens right away. To get that wow moment from the kids, right? So with that in mind, I went ahead and got some iodine. I'm only going to have iodine in room 3. So if you're in the preschool room and you want to use the iodine, go borrow it real quick from room 3. But otherwise, you've got everything you need for the food coloring in your room. So I'm gonna do it here. So what I've got here is just plain water. This represents you or me. In this one I have bleach and water. It's at least a half and half solution. You're going to have in your rooms a bottle that looks like this. There's actually 2. There's one that has bleach water and one that has oil in it. Smell it. Make sure you get the bleach water one because otherwise you'll mess up another object lesson for later in the day. You want to use about half of it, and the reason is because you need to save half for the other lesson for a second service. So, in this middle one, we've got the bleach one that's going to represent Jesus. We've got the one that's plain water that's going to represent us. And in the middle one, for this object lesson, we want to put iodine. Okay? You can add a little water to it because it'll still stay pretty dark. Okay? But that becomes your sin. Sin is dark. And it makes it hard to see through. You can't really see through that. It's just a dark mess, right? And so you start the object lesson and say, when Adam and Eve sinned, when they made a mistake, it had an effect on them. And it made it so that you couldn't really see through theirs either. And sin has that effect on us. Sin darkens us and clouds our vision. And when we make mistakes, it becomes easier and easier to make mistakes because we can't see clearly. The good news is that Jesus has done the work for us and came to cleanse the sin of the world, right? And so when we accept Jesus into our heart, remember this is the bleach water, really striking visual turns clear, right? And so then you can even talk about how at that point, once we've accepted Jesus into our heart, sin may still have an impact. Our mistakes may have an impact, but it's never quite the same. Let me do that close. It still clouds the water, but we're still able to see through it, right? Well, and even better news is that Jesus didn't just come to cleanse my sin and your sin, but Jesus came to take in the sin of the whole world. And what was once dark and hard to see through is now clear. Great visual impact. I really encourage use one of the two. And break the analogy up however it works for you. If you use the food color, talk about how Jesus has to work on our hearts. If you use the iodine, really push that part of Jesus taking on the sin of the whole world. It's a powerful, like you've got this, it's the same amount of dark stuff as it is clear, and it just pours in and becomes clear. It's impressive. It's visually striking, and it sticks with people. The fifth Sunday of this month, I'm actually going to do this in front of the congregation, and I'm going to do like a brief little mini children's sermon around it. So if you miss it, the kids won't necessarily miss it for good. They'll still get a chance to see it. They'll see the iodine one then, not the food coloring one. And so if you wanted to mix it up, you could show the food coloring one, and then I'll do the iodine one on the fifth Sunday. But not everybody's going to be here for the fifth Sunday. And it's visually striking every time you see it. And they might even have fun saying they know what's coming next. Enjoy this one. It's a really great visual. It actually showed up on the curriculum a few months ago, but I know based on the supplies that were left at the end of the day that nobody actually did it. One group did say that they did it, but it didn't work because they didn't wait long enough for the food coloring to go away, because it was food coloring rather than iodine. So again, don't forget iodine will be in room 3, not in room 2. So if you're in room 2, don't forget where to find it. If you're in room 3, don't forget to share. Thanks, y'all.